In this video, I interview serial entrepreneur and best-selling author Peter Voogd, and he talks about how to build a polarizing personal brand that rises above the noise, his social media tips, and how to design a business and a lifestyle on your own terms. Man, super pumped to have you on the show. Now, Peter is a serial entrepreneur, best-selling author, leading authority to millennials, pumping out a lot of great content and doing some really cool things on social media with video. And one of the things that you've done, that I respect is the brand you've built, whether that's from your website to your photography, to your videos, to your content. And so let's talk a little bit. Everyone in the influencers community wants to build a strong brand. I want to go back. You talked about polarizing. That's a powerful principle, but let's talk a little bit about how do you build a powerful brand leveraging social media, and what are some of the things you're doing, especially this is video influencers. You're doing Instagram stories, you're using Google Hangouts, and so we could break that all down. But what are kind of the first steps of building a standout, powerful brand online?
I think there's a couple steps. First is, for me, and what I've really believed in, is you have to get some results first. You have to figure out what industry you're going to dominate, what topic you want to really master. I wanted to impact and inspire and help millennials, not because I'm like, that sounds cool to impact millennials. It's because when I was 21 through 28 through 27, I wanted to impact because I was running a sales team. I broke a lot of records as a sales rep being a millennial. And then I was able to train millennials while I was still a millennial and break a lot of other records as a district manager and do almost 9 million. So I knew, unlike anybody else that I knew of, how to motivate and inspire people to the umpth degree. Like, I was taking kids that dropped out of school that had no business succeeding and making them 6 figures because they followed my roadmap. And I knew how to motivate them. I would get 70 or 80 young entrepreneurs, like at our office. We had an office space, 2,000 square foot. And they would come in the morning, Sean, and they would make calls to their leads at like 7 in the morning. Their parents could not get them to make their bed. And I'm getting these kids that some of them were lazy up at like 6:30 to come to the office to make calls to crush it. I gave them a purpose and a reason to chase their dreams. So I knew that very few people could actually motivate and inspire young people. So that's why I did that. So the first step is you have to get real results.
Yeah.
There's a lot of younger people that are like, I'm a coach, I'm a life coach, I'm this. It's like, no, you can't do that if you have no results.
Yeah.
You have 20 grand. What do you mean you're a life coach?
Yeah.
I think someone that coaches you about life should probably have a great life.
Right.
So first is like getting real results. I think a lot of people try to do it without getting real results. I want to be an influencer, I want to write books, but you got to figure out what you're going to do that's polarizing, that actually you've done, that people can respect you. That's the first. Second is, like you said, have a polarizing point of view that sometimes might offend people. You have to know yourself at a high level when you're building a brand, and you have to figure out what's going to make your brand different. Where if someone's like, why should I choose your brand? Or why should I follow you? Why should I choose your product, your service, versus every other product or service that does what you do on the market? There's 1,000 video influencers. Why should I watch your stuff?
Yeah.
And you have to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's why. Most people can't differentiate. And the biggest differentiator is figuring who you are at the deepest core, because that's when you're going to inspire the most people, is when you're not like somebody else. A lot of people are following different people like Gary Vee and Grant and even me, and they're trying to be a certain person. Don't do that, because then you're not authentic. So for me, when I started to follow other people and take things from each person and not really know myself and took a lot of opinions, my brand wasn't growing. So right when I started figuring out who I was, what was my mission, what was I excited about, what was my polarizing point of view that might offend people, but it's going to deepen your connection with your audience at a higher level. It's always better to be loved or hated than tolerated.
Yeah.
And a lot of people want to be tolerated because they want to please everybody. And if you want to please everybody, you'll never build a polarizing brand. Like, look at LeBron James, look at Richard Branson, look at Elon Musk, look at Donald Trump, look at Kobe Bryant. It's like, they're the best ever. I love them. Dude, they're the worst person on the planet.
Yeah.
I want to kill them.
Love and hate, yeah.
That's just, no one's like a legend. Like, oh yeah, he's all right. It's like a strong point of view.
Yeah.
That's how you have to be as a brand, is you have to be polarizing and figure out what pisses you off.
That's super strong. And we always talk about the quote from Sally Hogstead that is, different is better then better.
100%.
Right? And so there's a couple big, powerful takeaways there. I mean, number one, you didn't just pick millennials.
No.
But a lot of people talk about motivation and entrepreneurship, but as soon as you added that millennial distinction, now you stand out more. You're not just motivation and entrepreneurship, a more smaller audience. So influencers, how can you narrow down your audience? But by tapping into your actual experience, so you have some real credibility. And then let's talk a little bit about what you're actually doing. So you're using Instagram. What are some of the platforms? How are you picking what platforms you're on? And what's some of the strategy behind what we see? And I want to encourage you guys, of course, we'll link all of Peter's stuff up in the description, but you can see Instagram stories to your page. What's the thinking behind how you're building your brand, what platforms, and your strategies there?
Because you're asking good questions, I'll share stuff I never share. That's like kind of like a little ninja moves behind the scenes. But one, you have to do your due diligence, do your research. We've done so much surveying and research. Like our email list is over 100,000. We've interviewed them multiple times, like surveying exactly what they want, what they need, where they're at, what they're looking at, what they don't like, what they like what drives them, how long the content should be, what content out there do they hate, why. So we've done that for years. So I think we have an edge because we're researching. And here's the biggest thing I think that why entrepreneurs fail when they're building, whether it's videos, whether a brand, whether it's social media, whether it's content, is the likelihood of the marketplace responding because you want something or because you think they like something is zero. And I think they might like this content. No. That's a quick way to get no influence. Instead, figure out what the customers want or what your target audience wants, what they're thinking, get inside their head, think about what they're laying in bed at night thinking about, what do they need help with, what inspires them, what is their trends, and actually delivering on that. And people always talk about like their expertise. No one really cares unless you understand them and you can help them. So a lot of people try to put out their expertise, one. They try to put out content that people think they want, but they don't ever do any research. So for us, we do a lot of research. We know a lot of our audience is on Instagram, and we know a lot of our audience is on Facebook. It was on Snapchat. Snapchat obviously is not doing as well, but we still get on Snapchat. So we test a lot with different platforms. The biggest thing we've done, I value my time at the highest level because I can't get that back. I'm sure you do and everyone watching this does. So we try to streamline. So what we've done this last probably 2 years that I don't see many people doing is we streamline our content to where, let's say I have an interview with Elon Musk coming up, which is crazy.
Sick.
Next year. And let's say I interview like a Grant or an Eric Thomas or something. I'll interview him in person or on video, and then my team will take that video and they'll chop it up into Instagram snippets, the best possible content. They'll take a minute of it. And then they'll do swipe ups for stories. And this is all one video. And then they'll take it and I'll have my copywriter write an article. And we have contracts with Entrepreneur Magazine, Inc., Forbes, all that stuff. So we take the article and then we push it to them and they push it out. And then we create Twitter snippets. And then we also create Facebook videos. We boost those and we make it a YouTube video. And then we take the audio and make it a podcast. So there's one content that's 45 minutes of me and him talking, and it's like 10 different places. So now it spreads to 10 different places with me spending 45 minutes, so I don't duplicate the content. And that's something I think people should be doing more of, is streamlining their content and then figuring out where their target audience is by testing and experimenting. We've done a lot of that.
At the end of the day, when you start building something, eventually you're going to get punched in the face. Mm-hmm. Eventually you're going to have that time where maybe you're on the top, but you also just like, man, I want to quit. And so can you just share a final word for those going through it, wherever they're at?
One, tough times don't last, tough people do. And realizing that the tougher your struggles, the more exciting your successes will be. And I challenge them, like you said, your back's against the wall. I challenge you not to wait till your back's against the wall. Not to wait till you're running out of money. Not to wait till your kids don't know who you are. Not to wait until you have health problems. I would tell you that the number one reason people don't succeed these days is they never tell themselves right now matters. Now matters more than ever, because if you maximize now and today, tomorrow takes care of itself. So just telling yourself, not in 2 hours, not tomorrow, like right now, after this exact video, what are you gonna do different? While most people escape reality, go watch TV or go talk a lot, what are you gonna do to actually give yourself the best possible advantage to succeed as an influencer? Because most people wanna succeed and they feel like they need to succeed, but they don't deserve it based on their actions. So I tell them now matters more than ever. Not tomorrow, not next week. Don't live on some dial. Now matters. If you take care of now, most people spend the first half of their life saying they're too young, and the second half they're like, I'm too old. don't be like most people.
Yeah.
I challenge you to level up and rise above the noise because people need you.
This is what's happening every minute right now. Facebook users are sharing 2.5 million pieces of content every minute. Twitter users tweet nearly 350,000 times. Instagram users post 500,000 new photos. YouTube users upload 72 hours of new video content. Apple users download 75,000 apps. 200 million email messages, and Amazon, meanwhile, has generated over $283,000 in online sales every minute. So there's this deluge of information
and consumption.
More books to read, more Instagram to scroll on, more YouTube videos to watch, and we talk about this a lot. Are you creating more than you're consuming? Hey, Sean Cannell here, and I'm so excited that you've joined me for this episode of the Think Media podcast. We're talking all about productivity tips to help you achieve more as a YouTube creator with less stress, and giving you a game plan to finish this year strong and build massive momentum going into 2022. And I promise you, if you stick around until the end of this episode, you're gonna have tactical and actionable steps that you can use to grow your YouTube channel and your business right now. Now, I have a guest today, my good friend Peter Voogd, who is the author of 6 Months to Six Figures, which has sold a whopping 500,000 copies, and his newly released book, 7 Rules to Seven Figures, the entrepreneur's playbook to freedom, family, and fortune. He's been recognized by entrepreneur.com. He's the world's leading authority for millennials and entrepreneurs. He built multiple six figures by, I think, age 23. By age 27, he became a millionaire. He's been in direct selling. He creates all kinds of different content. He creates different mixtapes. He's got the books. He's an in-demand speaker. And so definitely somebody that, not only that, besides of the accolades and the results he's gotten in business and in personal branding and all these areas, he's also a world-class family man, a couple kids now. And so I love Peter for so many different reasons, but also because he's no fluff. And so let's get ready to dive into this episode where you're going to learn some really powerful information for making this literally the best couple weeks of your life. And today's episode is brought to you by thinkmasterclass.com. That is our free YouTube class that you're not going to want to miss, but I'll tell you a little bit more about that later in the episode. So let's get into our featured content with Peter. Welcome back to the Think Media podcast. I'm super fired up for this episode with Peter Voogd, and we're going to be talking about, man, how do you finish the year strong? What are some productivity tips, and what are the two biggest productivity killers that is destroying all kinds of entrepreneurs and YouTube creators? And this is some real stuff that's going to help you get more results over the next few weeks, so you can not just finish 2021 strong, but crush it with momentum going into 2022. But Peter, I'm super fired up for having you here. We're talking about the launch of your new book, 7 Rules to Seven Figures, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later, but let's just get right into it with the first and really biggest problem that's holding entrepreneurs back, and you call it the entrepreneur's worst addiction. What is that?
It's information overload. Thanks for having me. I love your channel, your content. I've known you for years, so I appreciate you, man. Side note, it's mastery versus overload is what needs to happen, because I think people right now are so obsessed with information. There's evolving technology, there's information overload, there's so much content coming online every second that people are overloaded and overwhelmed. And when you're overwhelmed as an entrepreneur, as a creator, you subconsciously seek distraction. You don't even mean to. So what I see, especially with the young demographic and a lot of up and coming content creators, YouTube creators, entrepreneurs, CEOs, is people are so obsessed with consuming and with learning, they forget they have to execute. And that's the biggest problem, is people trick themselves in thinking they need more information when they really need to execute the right information that's relevant to their business and their goals. And I've seen that happen that was me back in the day. And I think about it like this. If it's easy, it's not very valuable to your bottom line or to your future. So reading a book is not that difficult. Like you don't need a lot of, there's not a filter system. You could go to the store, get a book, you could order on Amazon. That's great. But executing what's in the book and seeing results is the hard part. And I see most people just don't want to get to that hard part. So instead of executing or getting outcome focused, they simply just learn more. And what happens when you learn without executing is you don't know what action to take. You have no clarity, you have noise in your head, and you get overwhelmed and frustrated. So I finally made a list of like, okay, I need to make sure before I take any new information on, did I execute my previous information? Is this information I'm taking on relevant to my 6-month vision? Is it relevant to my end goal? Is it taught by someone who is the best at that subject so I don't waste time? And I think if people took that approach, they'd be in a different situation because people that are outcome focused produce results like nobody else. And I think most people are information focused and they get addicted to information, not results and outcomes. And that's what moves the business forward is results and outcomes.
And in the book, you told a story about someone that came up to you and was bragging about how many books they
100
read.
plus books.
Expand on that.
So I was talking to him and he's like, dude, I've been reading so much. I've read 100 books last year. I'm like, that's great. What do you, and he still had a position that he didn't like, and he wasn't moving forward in his entrepreneur ventures. And I said, oh, what are you doing now? He's like, oh, I'm still at the place, but I'm learning a lot. I'm like, why don't you, instead of reading 100 books, why don't you just read a couple and then master those and execute those and start your own business or write your own book? And a light bulb just like popped off in his head. Because he never had thought about executing or producing. He was only thinking about consuming because he liked to feel like he was getting smarter, which is great. But if you learn a ton without executing, I feel like it just dilutes the progress. So he totally transformed and he now has a book out, which is crazy. But he was so obsessed with reading books and he never executed them.
Man, that is probably the message of now. I can't even think of a bigger challenge. Right? We're talking about the 2 things that'll kill your productivity. The first one is this information overload, and then we'll get into some productivity tips. But you wrote in the book, this is what's happening every minute right now. Facebook users are sharing 2.5 million pieces of content every minute. Twitter users tweet nearly 350,000 times. Instagram users post 500,000 new photos. YouTube users upload 72 hours of new video content. Apple users download 75,000 apps. 200 million email messages, and Amazon, meanwhile, has generated over $283,000 in online sales every minute. So there's this deluge of information.
And consumption.
More books to read, more Instagram to scroll on, more YouTube videos to watch. And we talk about this a lot. Are you creating more than you're consuming?
Mm-hmm. And most aren't.
And people are over consuming. So if you want to boost your productivity and really finish the year strong, or even if you're watching this whenever, man, if you lower how much you're consuming. And so that's another point in the book. You talk about how you've limited the books you're reading, what you're listening to. What's kind of your...
Yeah, that's crazy. So I did an experiment 2 years ago where I only listened to one podcast. I had one mentor. I listened to just one person I respected that was doing what I wanted to do. I didn't listen to a bunch of other podcasts. I didn't read a bunch of books. I think I read 1 or 2 books that year, or maybe even 1 book. And because I was so focused on my mission and because I was so clear on exactly what I wanted to accomplish for the business, that was the best year I've ever had in my life, results-wise, income-wise, success-wise, peace of mind-wise, happiness-wise, and everything. So I consumed the least and I was the happiest with the most results. So I was like, dang, I'm onto something here. I only like to put things in the book or share things that I've actually experienced, that I've gone through the trenches with and had a bad experience or a good experience with. And that was a big game changer. What I focused on more than ever, Sean, was knowing myself. What you don't know about yourself controls your life. So I realized I was consuming so much because it made me feel smarter, but feeling smarter and actually being smarter and creating something is different. So that was a year where I lowered the time I spent consuming and I just focused on producing, and it was the best year of my life.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And so how can you lower the amount of information you're consuming? Of course, I mean, keep listening to the Think Media podcast.
Well, it's smart because it's tactical.
Yeah, I mean, check out Peter's pod. Those are the two podcasts, Young Entrepreneur Lifestyle. Get this book, but it's the one. I mean, but in realness, a lot of us probably are ordering too many books. Mm-hmm. We're not even reading them all, and our focus, and we're ultimately also trying to execute on 45 different strategies.
And listen, I've had people tell me, Sean, big influencers, friends of mine, hey, when you talk about the mastery thing, you're gonna kill your sales and your book sales and your friend sales. But I value truth and what actually helped me and what I really think could help people over sales.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I say mastery versus overload, if people are like, I won't read your stuff, that's fine. I want what's best for you.
Really good.
So when we say this stuff, it's like, maybe they won't watch our stuff as much. I don't care as much. I care about them actually growing a real business that helps their family and gives them freedom.
That's powerful. And would you agree that, well, I mean, we'll get to this in the tips, but you need to figure out what is the number one thing you want to move the needle on over the next 6 weeks, over the next 12 weeks. And the book you read or the podcast you listen to should move the needle in that one area.
That's it.
Why are you studying email marketing if actually you need to get your health in order?
Yep.
Why are you studying YouTube if actually you're not even clear on your business, your brand, your positioning, and everything else? When actually we'll be here for you. Your stuff will be there, but what is the thing that's going to move the needle and shut out all this other information? The other thing, Peter, is like the anxiety is up, depression's up. I think people's attention spans are shorter. This information overwhelm is actually toxic. Mm-hmm.
It gets people to not only get deeper in anxiety, but have them be so confused with no clarity that there's no confidence. They don't know what actions to take. And then when you escape reality, your reality becomes worse. And most people, they don't want to face the reality of they're stressed or they're struggling or they have anxiety. So they do something to escape it. And because there's so many options, they're like, oh my God, there's Netflix. There's all these things I could do to escape my reality. And what I realized that I talk about in the book is, if you don't have clarity and you're overwhelmed and you escape reality, your problem's gonna be there when you come back.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be worse.
Yeah.
So it's like the only way for someone to better their reality, if you're in a place and you're like, I have to get to the next level. I wanna grow my YouTube subscribers. I want to increase my income. You have to deal in reality first. Only way. And people don't like looking at themselves in the mirror. I've done it many times and it hasn't been fun to kind of call yourself out or face reality, but what other way can you improve your reality? And if you look at the majority of society, they're in the same spot they were 5 years ago, sometimes worse. But if you ask them if they're gonna crush it the next 5 years, they're like, oh, of course I will. I'll be way out of this situation. Fast forward, they're not. Because they always are escaping reality because it makes them feel good in the moment, which is the instant pleasure trap.
Man, and
so it's just like,
man, it gets worse before it gets better, because that's just number one thing that's killing your productivity. We're going to share some tips.
You're making me a bad guy.
As how to speed up. But the second one is the silent killer. What is the silent killer that is killing most people's dreams, their YouTube channels, their businesses?
Yeah, so there was a study, and I've been obsessed the last couple of years with like science and studies and not going as much off the fluff, but really thinking about what's causing people to be stressed out and frustrated and broke. And there was a study about any family or any kid that grew up in a family that was in survival mode, the lower income families, which I have such a deep conviction to help them because I like helping inner city kids. I work with them in Seattle. That's how I built a direct sales business, is working with kids lower income. So I really feel for what they're going through. A lot of them don't have any guidance. But there was a study where if you grew up in a family who had if the parents were in survival mode, they were living paycheck to paycheck, and there was no sense of like, this affects this, the kids have zero sense of what they do now affects the future. They're only in the moment. So they're so focused on the moment that they never actually create success in the future because they don't think that what you do now affects later. So the big trap is instant pleasure. Mm-hmm. Like, it's the choosing growth in the moment. The only way to grow your confidence and grow your business and grow your income is to choose growth in the moment, to choose the tough decision versus the easy decision, to think about that my decision now might be tough, but it will pay me dividends later. And people just don't do that enough. Should I watch Netflix or should I study my business plan? Oh, Netflix, it's easy. I'll get to my business plan later. Should I eat the salad or the cheeseburger? Should I wake up or hit the alarm? Should I go out and party and drink with my friends, or should I stay back and read and work on my sales script? And almost everyone who chooses the easy decision has a really rough life later. And everyone who chooses the tough decisions has an easy and amazing life. So I was choosing the easy decisions when I was 22, 23, and it caused me to go broke. Shocker.
Yeah.
So I'm having fun, I'm partying, I'm spending my money, I'm not making much, but I'm just like making the easy decisions. I'm going home every weekend because I don't want to pay for certain things, and I'm homesick when I leave to start my business. I'm broke and stressed. I start making tough decisions, and I always, in the moment, I'm like, should I make the tough or easy? And if I just kept making the tougher decision, I didn't feel like doing. And my life started becoming more enjoyable, more fulfilling, and had more results. So that's it. People just need to understand that what you do now affects your future. So if you want to crush it in 2022, you got to respect the next 6 weeks.
Yeah.
You can't be like most people that party and go out and say, it's the fall, it's the winter time. I could hang out, I could eat unhealthy. If you want to be crushing it in your health next year, you got to take the next 6 weeks serious. That's the trap, is just instant pleasure. And I do that. In my first book, I talked about the decision train, where most people do what they feel like. And if you only do what you feel like, you're not doing much, because no one really feels like working out. No one feels like doing all these things that are hard. And I think the 5%, Sean, that are at the upper echelon of success right now, that are having success in their business and life and happiness, they're doing what they should, not what they feel. So this morning, both mornings, I didn't feel like working out. I'm traveling. I was in Texas all last week. I'm in Vegas now. I didn't feel like working out, but I already told myself I'd work out. Mm-hmm. So I did it because I said I would. And the feeling I had when I was done doing something I didn't feel like doing is the most exhilarating feeling ever. So how you get over this is you start getting addicted to doing the things you didn't feel like doing. Get addicted to the end result and the feeling of completing things you don't like doing. That is the best feeling ever, and it builds your confidence and self-worth like crazy. So if people could just do that, it's a game changer.
I mean, literally, if you, over the next 6 weeks, didn't give into instant gratification, but the lever is delayed gratification. And I've heard that a lot, that actually probably one of the most powerful skill sets of anybody that's experiencing success is delayed gratification. And if you want to start building that momentum, now you're going to kill so many things off your calendar, and that's going to set you up to apply some of these tips. So if we are not over-consuming information and we're making the hard decisions, Peter, what are some steps we could take to really finish 2021 strong and build massive momentum going into the next year?
I think first is understanding that moods and feelings are killing a lot of businesses. They're killing a lot of results and success and momentum. I think the two scariest things in life right now, especially going into next year, is momentum or lack of it. So like making the decision first, like I need to make a definite decision. I'm gonna start building momentum. I'm gonna make up for all the times in my life that I did cut corners, that I didn't give my all, that I focused on instant pleasure. So decision comes first. If you don't make a decision, you're gonna be at the whims of your feelings. And I'm just, more than ever, Sean, because of what's happening, I see feelings kill everything. I see feelings create divorces. I see feelings create broke businesses. I see feelings like killing a lot of things. So it's like being principle-based, not feeling-based. Behind every feeling usually is nothing or a weak emotion. Behind every principle is a promise. You have principles, you execute principles, there's a promise on the other side of success and growth and fulfillment. So I think if they were to really crush the last 6 weeks, it's first understanding what is your interruptions that have killed your momentum in the past. Think about it logically. In the last year, what has killed your momentum? What things have gotten your way? Is it distractions? Is it friends? Is it social media? Is it consuming? And then creating a plan to interrupt those interruptions. So when I'm creating content, one of the biggest interruptions I used to have was the internet. I'm like creating content, I gotta check email, gotta check Facebook. Every time I create content, I don't have internet. There's 2 places in my town that I go, there's no internet. So I can't physically get on the internet if I wanted to. Then after the 3rd or 4th time trying, I'm like, Peter, snap into it. What are you doing? You're not here for the internet. So just like getting rid of your interruptions. If you don't have a plan to interrupt your interruptions, your plans will always be interrupted. First thing. Second is you have to have a game plan. One of the things I talk about in the book is I give people a personalized game plan that they can follow. There's an execution list after every chapter they can actually follow to make sure they're executing what they're learning. But first thing is create an ideal vision. So for me, if I'm gonna have a 6-month game or a 6-week game plan, I'm thinking, okay, what is the end result? At the end of the year, January 1st, 2022, what do I want to accomplish? How do I want to feel? What do I want done? Then you work backwards. If you ask 100 entrepreneurs, Sean, what is your ideal outcome by January 1st? 99 out of 100 won't be clear. Oh, I want to make more money. I just want to be happy. Oh, I want to shed 5 pounds. No, you got to be specific. You got to be really specific with what you want. And you want to base this end result off of what's possible and off of your potential, not off of your past or off of limitations. A lot of people base their future off of their past insecurities. Can't do that. That's tricky. So you got to almost get rid of the limitations in a way and just say, if there was no limitations, what's ideal for you? Then you work backwards. For me, I write down my top 5 results I want to create. So I create a 1-page plan where I just have 1 page. I create my ideal vision on top. Let's say it's a 6-week plan. Then I create my values. Values are more for the longer term, 6 month, a year. But you can still be reminded of your values in the 6-week vision and say, what's most important for the end of the year? Okay, I have to get my income up for my family. I need a little bit more freedom for my family. Usually it ends up being freedom and family. But if you're in a business, you're young, you want to hustle, you want to really create growth in your business, your values should be results and income first, right? And maybe more customers. Figure out your values. Next is results. What are the 3 to 5 results you want to create by the end of the year? The most important results that'll move the needle for your business, that will actually build momentum for 2022 and be relevant to 2022 vision. Underneath that, this is the part that really makes it real and I think gives you the juice, is your reasons. I talk about this in the first book as well as this one. I write down 15, 20 reasons always, maybe 30. I realized looking at those, 70% aren't real reasons that fire me up. Like when I wrote down a Tesla, it's like, yeah, I like Teslas, but I'm not gonna wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning fired up because I wanna drive a Tesla. They have to be internal. So you have to really dig deep from your past or think about why you wanna succeed and make these 5 results happen. So write down your top 5 reasons that really give you the juice, because reasons come first, results come second. If you don't have strong enough reasons, you're not gonna push past the challenges. And if you're not waking up right now, 4 or 5, 6 in the morning, fired up and excited, you don't have strong enough reasons. So if you don't have strong enough reasons to make the end of the year amazing, you'll go back into old habits. So have strong reasons. Once you have the reasons down, then you figure out what's the one domino that if I master, study, and read about, will make all of these possible. And then from there, I just focus on mastery versus overload. And I pretty much say no to everything else. So when you look at your values and you look at your goals and your reasons, I say, okay, my value is freedom and peace of mind right now. Money's not as important because I have financial freedom. And yes, I like money, but family and peace of mind right now becomes first. So now everything that comes across my desk, is this gonna contribute to my peace of mind and freedom or contaminate it? Oh, contaminate? I don't want it. If my value is money first, which it was when I was broke, is this gonna contribute to my income and my brand and my results, or contaminate? If it contaminates, you say no. So say no to everything that doesn't allow you to reach those top 5 goals for the end of the year. And then lastly, I look at this list and I make sure I'm fully sold on it. If you're not sold on it, if there's 1% doubt, you're out. So I feel like the number one reason people procrastinate is they don't actually sell themselves on what they're doing. They're not fully sold. That's why you see people change businesses. They have the grass is greener mentality. They're not sold. The divorce rate's almost 60% now. And if you're not fully sold on your significant other, and in 1% of your mind, you're like, there could be someone else out there for me, guaranteed divorce. If you're smoking and you're not sold on how bad it is for you, you'll never quit. Once you sell yourself on how bad it is, you'll quit. So I think people just need to sell themselves on their goals and sell themselves on what's most important to them. And then when they commit to it and they give themselves a little bit of a reward system, hey, if I hit these goals, I'm gonna treat myself. I'm gonna go buy a motorcycle. I'm gonna spend $1,000 on vacation. And if it involves other people, it's usually deeper. I'm gonna treat my wife to a spa, or I'm gonna take her here because we haven't been here for a long time. So if you have a reward system on top of that, that's when it really gets easy to execute because you have so many reasons. So that's one thing I'd say, is just have a game plan.
Yeah. Sheesh. I mean, that is...
You're getting me fired up.
That is the game plan. I mean, if you think and you apply this over the next six weeks, I want to encourage you to actually re-listen to what Peter just broke down, because that was like a fire hose. Pull out a piece of paper, pull out your note-taking app, let the audio podcast play in the background, or watch this later, save this video, and really map this out. Because if you map this out, man, what are my values? What is my ideal vision? And what are the results I want to have happen? What are my reasons for those results? You could get crazy momentum. And I want to highlight what you said. If you say YouTube is the needle I want to move, I want to get growth on YouTube. I want to commit to posting this many videos. I want to hit this subscriber goal. I'd like to get these kind of views. Maybe I want to collaborate with some people. I'd like to get 1 or 2 or 3, 4 people on my channel, some interviews landed, like set some targets like that. And then if something hits your desk, which it will, new viral TikTok trick, that's not growing your YouTube channel. If something hits your desk, and maybe health's not the focus, new workout, and you're up watching infomercials, get this ab roller, dude, that's not your focus right now. And whatever it is. And really, I believe that Think Media Podcast community, we can finish this year so freaking strong, but also build massive momentum going into 2022. Peter, would you agree with this? People you've helped before, that they're so much more capable than they even maybe imagine of what could happen in 6 weeks.
1000%.
That some
People
of us maybe
underestimate.
we've never actually stepped into what 6 weeks, really difficult, but what 6 weeks of actually turning down instant gratification could feel like. And I like what you said too. How do I want to feel on January 1st? Hopefully not hungover. How do I want to feel on January 1st, 2022? I want to feel like I crushed that whole plan.
I used to tell my sales team, we always had our company sales would go like this in December, and ours would always be #1 in the entire company. Because I flipped the script. I said, there's 2 types of feelings you can have as a human being in the holidays in December, January. One is proud and accomplished, and one is with regret and frustration.
Sure.
And what you do right now for the next 6 weeks will determine what feeling you have.
It's time.
Frustration and regret, or proud and confidence.
Man, this is such a real mindset. We drift in the mindset of, oh, I'm going to give in to what everybody's doing. I'll probably, 5, 10, 15 pounds I'm going to gain. So many different parties. I'm eating so many cookies and whatever. You do you, but how's that going to feel? Yeah. You're then going to be like, oh, it's January. That's why I got to get back in the gym. Oh, I kind of just neglected my YouTube channel. Like, you could treat this whole season different and you'd end with a whole different result. And Peter, I like how you live your life, because you live it on the opposite of what most people do. It's freeing you could take a vacation.
I'm unorthodox.
You could take a vacation at the end of January.
For sure.
And you could be proud of the results you've gotten in terms of videos, money, income, momentum, all these different areas by just making different decisions right now.
100%. And I think a lot of people don't realize 2022 starts for like the really successful people. If you want to be successful, you have to think and act like people that are already at your level. I think every successful person I know understands that 2022 starts in November, December.
Yeah.
So if you're like, oh, 2022 starts January 1st, you're already lost.
It's too late.
You're already lost. And then one last thing I'll say too that I've never shared before in my life. I share some in the book in more depth, and they can have an action list to go with it. The difference between if you're not executing discipline, you need help. You wake up, maybe you have anxiety, you're frustrated, and you really just need help with your willpower. There's 3 different ways to get that help, and the hardest one is discipline. People are killing themselves because they don't have discipline to do something in the moment that's hard. The next thing past discipline that's even easier, but not the end all be all, is willpower. I used to place my toughest task when I had the most willpower. You only have a certain amount of willpower in the day, and if you waste it in the morning, you won't have any at night, you'll make the bad decisions. It's easy to make cowardly decisions if you're tired. You're not a coward, but you're making coward decisions because you have no willpower. The third thing is lifestyle shift. This is what changed my life. I'm not that disciplined. People are like, wait, what? I just have lifestyle shifts. For example, here's a simple example. Me and my wife wanted to be healthier because we were eating sugar. We had sweet tooth at night, and it was just like, we would be like in the morning, we're not eating unhealthy tonight. She'd have a glass of wine, and I'd have a little bourbon, or I'd have something. We're hungry. We'd go in the fridge and get some ice cream or get some snacks. We don't have any sweets in our house. We don't buy sweets. There's no sweets in our house. So we could have the worst discipline we've ever had in our life. Still, we wouldn't eat unhealthy.
But you set up a system
because there's no food
there's
just none. So willpower with my book, when I was writing this book, it was hard to not be distracted because it was hard. It made my brain hurt.
Yeah.
I couldn't get distracted because I had no distractions. I didn't have my phone on me. I couldn't even check my phone because I didn't have it on me, and I didn't have internet. So I had to write.
Yeah.
So if you give me discipline, it'd be hard because I'd be distracted. So if people can make some lifestyle shifts and just kind of get things out of sight, out of mind, it's way easier. If you don't want to eat healthy, stop buying unhealthy food.
Yeah.
Just don't even have it in there.
Wow.
Another example is working out. I don't like working out. I don't feel like most people are like, I can't wait to work out.
Yeah, some of those.
Maybe
I don't
some
understand
days.
those people.
Okay, my guy Horace does like do that.
Yeah.
He loves the gym. He
Oh,
likes
the beast
fighting.
mode guys.
But I'm
Live
not
for
like
the gym.
that. Yeah. So the reality is, for me, we have a trainer that comes 4 days a week now.
Yeah.
So probably 3 out of the 4, me and Kayla are like, Robert's coming.
Yeah.
Dang it. But don't matter.
Yeah,
The second I get,
because he's coming.
he's coming, and
Yeah.
the second I get in with him, it's like
Sure.
I'm working out, and afterwards I'm like, I feel amazing.
Yeah.
So it's like if I left it to the gym, going to the gym 5 days a week, it'd be harder.
Yeah.
So it's just my lifestyle supports my goals.
Man, are you ready to finish the year strong? Hey, Peter, tell us a little bit about 7 Rules to 7 Figures, of course, in the show notes. I highly recommend the book. Again, if you want to focus on mastery versus overload, you can see how marked up if you're watching the video version of this podcast. The cool thing about the book, too, is I was able to crush it in probably about 5 hours and about 2-hour settings on a plane. And so there's no fluff. Actionable tactics that will really help you move the needle, scale your business. And 6 Months to 6 Figures is an incredible book as well. But what's your heart behind this?
So I promised myself I wasn't going to write another book until I really could not sleep and I had to get this message out there. So a lot of observation, a lot of due diligence, a lot of research, a lot of trials and errors of building a 7-figure business in the new economy. And I saw people building businesses, trying to get the 7 figures, working 80 hours. They couldn't do it. I saw other people get the 7 figures, but they had no lifestyle. And I felt like I kind of hacked the system where this is a blueprint to help people build a 7-figure plus business on their terms, where they run their business, they have an inspiring lifestyle, and their business doesn't run them. This is not like, what did you do to do it? It's not about what I did. It's about, this is a book that help you figure out your strengths, your unique abilities, help you figure out exactly what industry to get in that allows you to flourish and helps you hit your values, gives you the scalability you want, teaches you how to figure that out and how to make moves to where you're positioned in your industry, where customers and clients come to you versus you chasing people. So anyone that does want to build a lifestyle on their terms, anyone that values freedom and wants to claim some of their freedom back and wants to build a business that helps people, that allows them to work in their strengths and gifts, I don't feel like there's any other blueprint out there that can help them in a tactical way like this one. So I'm excited. My wife told me after the book, I'm so glad you're done with that. Now you can be normal again. Because I was like such a different person writing it. I put my heart and soul. It took me 2 years. So I'm excited that it's finally out. I can't wait for people to read it.
And actually, I do read a lot of books, so I can say that this book actually is really remarkable. A lot of books are good, but they're only about 25% of the main point, and then the rest of the book is fluff. Every page is actionable, tactical, and we were just talking about how one of my favorite things is every chapter has an execution plan. You are so obsessed with implementation and not just information.
I don't want them to go to the next chapter until they execute something.
Yeah, you live by that, and so this book's definitely worth your time. You can check out that and all of Peter's social media and whatnot to follow him, connect with him in the show notes. Peter, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
My pleasure, man. Thank you.
Man, I tell you what, that episode was like a fire hose of actionable information from Peter, but I want to encourage you a couple things. Number one, maybe re-listen to that with a piece of paper out. I know I mentioned that, but like it's time to sit down and make a game plan. We don't want you just in information overload listening to this podcast, but we really want to help you create a game plan right now. And so take some time to actually put a plan on paper, and I guarantee you this could be the best couple weeks of your life. It could give you the momentum needed to end the year strong, but also really set you up for massive momentum going into 2022. Secondly, if you would say that the number one area you want to move the needle in right now is your YouTube channel, the number one area you want to grow in right now is YouTube. To be fair, as Peter said, maybe it's not. And that's cool if you've identified a different area you need to grow. But if it's YouTube, then do not miss the thinkmasterclass.com. Today's episode is brought to you by our signature class. It's a free web class that we just updated where I actually break down in detail the one strategy we're using to generate over 50,000 views every day on YouTube. You can watch it for free. You just go to thinkmasterclass.com. In an hour, you'll be able to take notes and get my best strategies for growing your YouTube channel right now, even if you're just starting. And then at the end of it, we also tell you about how you can go deeper with us in our program called Video Ranking Academy. But here's the deal. If you just want to check out the free class, don't miss it. We update it from time to time. It's not always available, but right now we have the replay available. And so definitely check that out. And it'll be absolutely worth your time, especially if YouTube is the area you want to grow and build momentum in as we go into 2020. Now, for the comment of the week, and shout out, thank you so much for reviewing and rating the podcast on Apple. This one is from Boy is a Chicken, and it says, how are they so amazing? I can't wait to start off the right way for my YouTube channel. Thank you, Knox Tucker. P.S. You guys are the best. Think Media. Man, I appreciate you leaving these great reviews. Listen, all we ask for is an honest review. If you find that listening to this podcast gives you tactical information that you can use, then it would mean the world to us if you would just take a moment, jump on your phone and head over to Apple, anywhere in the world, and leave a review, rate and review the podcast. That'd be a great way for you to show your appreciation if you love this podcast. Hey, as we land the plane, remember, we are action takers. I hope you're glad that we had Peter on because you can see we have similar values. It's not just about more information. Come on, it's about implementation. It's not just about getting some head knowledge. It's about actual results. If you're not subscribed to the Think Media podcast, make sure you do so because every week we are bringing you tactical episodes to help you not just grow your YouTube channel, but to also grow a high profit, high impact online business around your YouTube channel. And I'm excited because in the future, Peter's coming back for a couple episodes to go even further. So stick around and I cannot wait to see you in the next episode of the Think Media podcast.
If you like that interview with Sean and you really want to learn more and go deeper into productivity, click this video here where I really go through the hacks of how I cut my workload in half and was able to get twice as much done. You'll love this video. Check it out. I have to fully be sold on it before I take it on. I think the number one reason people procrastinate, and this is more important than ever with all the uncertainty